Hi. So I know a lot of you clicking on this video are probably clicking on it because you're confused as to how Lidia can have any sort of difficulty or execution whatsoever. So I want to state that the purpose of this video is to help explain for people, whether it's in general or maybe you're looking to play Lidia and you want to find some interesting things about her, the aspects of her skill ceiling that do make her difficult, and to fully encompass all of the aspects of Lidia's execution. As you can see from the timestamps, there are quite a lot of things to cover, and Lidia actually has just about every form of execution in the game, some more important than others, some more difficult than others. The reason why there's this idea that Lidia is this brain-dead, easy casino 50-50 character that doesn't have anything outside of heat is because it's a misconception that's spread by a lot of streamers, content creators, and pro players because frankly they don't know how this character works. There are barely any of us playing Lidia at high level. There are probably only about 5 or so very high level, tournament level Lidia players in the world that can actually compete with Lidia against the pros as a main and not some weird secondary off pick. There's people like me, Exo, Tetsu, and a few others. And just to give some background on me, I am the second highest placing Lidia at a major tournament in Tekken 8's history. I got 13th place at Frosty Fausting maining Lidia this year, and the only person who's done better than me is Lee Mishima, who ended up winning a major early on when Lidia was released. Needless to say, I've spent a lot of time with this character and I know her very well, and a lot of the rhetoric that's spread about Lidia is just blatantly false. Things like that her neutral is bad are just completely incorrect. Lidia has fantastic, amazing neutral tools. Things like her just being a stance 50-50 casino character is again a completely false notion that's said by people who play against a lot of Lidias who just use that as their playstyle, even though it's completely ineffective. The problem and the reason why this sort of information is spread, whether again it's through streamers or pro players, including some recent ones like Fergus or Joker that have put out tier lists recently and have said very similar things even though they're not true, is because being able to fully utilize these strong aspects of Lidia's neutral, being able to take control of the game, relies a lot on very hard execution and very difficult mind games. Knowing how to play Lidia in neutral requires a very strong understanding of the fundamentals of Tekken while having a lot of control over your character, to the point where she's one of the highest execution characters in the game. She's one of the hardest to use characters in the game fundamental wise, and she has a very strange game plan that involves a lot of factors that are very difficult to get a grasp of. That's why when you see a lot of Lidia plays, especially if they don't main her, you see them default to this generic forward 4-2 into 50-50 style, because getting out of that and playing her well is extremely difficult and unorthodox. And in this video, I want to show you some of these aspects of her execution that are going to, if you play Lidia, help improve your game when you're playing her, or if you don't play Lidia, maybe just gain more of an appreciation for what really strong Lidia players can do, and maybe give you some inspiration to try out the character, seeing her in a different light than just being the typical 50-50 mix-up casino character that she's always been said to be. I also just want to put out a disclaimer before we start all of this, because a lot of this is going to be high execution. It's gonna take me a couple of takes to do stuff because I'm recording, and when I'm recording, my game does not like cooperating with me or running at a proper 60 FPS. So you'll have to forgive me if there are a lot of jump cuts in here, but I'm doing this off stream so that I can make sure I get this right, so you can see all of these aspects of Lidia fully combined together, and hopefully this can be a good compendium. Is that the word? a good resource that brings all of these concepts together that you can learn from in the future, and because I want to make sure I get this right. You know, playing Lidia for so long, there are a lot of comparisons with Lidia to Reina, and I don't think that there's really any comparison with the two characters. They are nothing similar to each other at all in how they play. They have one similar move being forward 4-2, but the way that you actually utilize this move doesn't really equate to one another. I think the character that is actually the most comparable to Lidia in a lot of ways is Kazuya, as strange as that sounds. And I am a notorious Mishima hater. I am not a big fan of the Mishimas or Mishima players, especially Kazuya players. If you know, you know. But at the same time, there are a lot of similarities between the two. They both have similar strengths and similar weaknesses, but the thing I want to highlight for this video is in terms of the execution. Kazuya, of course, has the electric, and there are a lot of different and versatile ways to use this one move. You can use it for whiff punishment, you can use it for pressure, you can use it for plus frames, you can use it for mix-ups. But one of the important things about using electric is actually being able to use it for block punishment, which is very hard because it requires a link. You can also use it for much more advanced techniques like perfect electric. And even though Kazuya, over time, they've been trying to make him easier and easier and easier ever since Tekken 7, it's undeniable that a Kazuya player who has full control of electric, not just being able to throw out electric, but being able to use it in those more advanced ways, like in block punishment, is essential for being a strong Kazuya player. And in Lidia's case, she has almost the exact same thing with her forward 4-2. A tool that is very versatile in many ways. You use it for a lot of options. You use it for counter hit fishing. You use it for getting in out at long range. You can use it for keep out for a counter hit. You can use it for your pressure after when you're plus, so you could do something like jab in the forward 4-2. But the real key, and that's where we're going to get into the first part of Lidia's execution, is linking it. In a similar way how Kazuya will link his electric off of a block to be able to punish with electric, Lidia has a similar thing, but she's not using forward 4-2 most of the time for punishment. There are some instances where she does have to use forward 4-2 as a link to punish stuff, and it is the only move that she has that can punish things. But for Lidia, a lot of it's actually inverse, where you're using it for her offense. So we're going to start at one of the less important aspects about the forward 4-2 link, and then move on to some of the more advanced, tighter execution, harder, but also much more important situations off of, say, back one. So we're going to start by just the +6 situation. So Lidia can do something like running 1, running 3, or even heaven and earth 2 here, and then she's +6. Now, if the opponent decides to retaliate with a jab, you have a couple of options here as a frame trap. You can do down forward 2 for the easy input that'll give you counter hit, and of course on counter hit this gives you heat engager guaranteed, or you can use down back 3, and if it jabs, trades with a jab, then you get political storm here guaranteed. With a down jab, it won't give you this guaranteed. But if you do forward 4-2, you can actually beat the jab still, as opposed to having to do the down forward 2. We'll talk about the advantages of this in a second, but first let me demonstrate one of the more easier concepts of this before we move into the more advanced ones. So if I do while running 1 and then forward 4-2 here, and the opponent tries to jab, as long as I time it correctly, I will get that counter hit on forward 4-2. And the reason for this is because forward 4-2 is a 13 frame move. Now the key here, if you're not too familiar with how input buffering moves work in Tekken, you cannot input buffer forward inputs. Forward 4-2 is a button that you cannot input buffer. If I try input buffering this like that, you'll see I get forward 2 instead, which Granted, here still works in this situation because it's a 12-frame move and it's safe, but it's not giving me a whole lot of reward, you know? It's only giving me +4. It's giving me only 12 damage, and I'm not getting that big counter hit property, which is what I'm fishing for, and Lidia lives off of that because she doesn't have reliable lows. Not to say that they're bad, her lows are actually very good for what they do for her, which again, we'll talk about in a little bit, but she really needs those counter hits when she can get it, and that's why being able to do this is so important. Now, the thing to keep in mind when it comes to the forward forward 2 link, if you're trying to do this yourself, is that when you do this, it's not the first forward that you can't input buffer, it's the forward +2 input. You can see that I'm not hitting forward and 2 on the same frame, and that's what makes this a little bit more lenient than doing, say, electric, because electric, you do forward during the input buffer, but then down forward and 1, you have to hit on the same frame. In this case, you don't. To put it in a different way, what you're essentially doing is forward, forward, and then the tilde, and then 2. So you're doing like forward, forward, but then the forward +2 you have to hit on the frame that you recover. So it is a little bit more lenient than other link inputs, but you still have to link the button. You still have to do it on the exact frame that you recover, or else it's not going to work. But what are the advantages of doing forward forward 2 over down forward 2? Well, the first and most obvious reason is if you do down forward 2, this is 0 on block. And the fastest move that Lidia has out of cat stance is 13 frames with the 3. She has no armor move in this stance, she has nothing else she can do, so you can just get jabbed out of this if you hit any button after the down forward 2. Now, there is still a mind game here that you can play, because if you're constantly just doing down forward 2 and holding back, and the opponent tries taking their turn, say to a low, then all of a sudden you can start doing maybe some more of Lidia's moves out of cat if the frames are faster than whatever they're doing. So there still is a mix-up in there, but the entire thing can be shut down with just a simple jab or down jab, and there's nothing that Lidia can do about it, and it's completely safe for the defender. It's the defender's choice if they want to get put in the mix-up situation or not. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that after down forward 2, Lidia kind of has to react to the situation and respond, and the opponent doesn't really have to do anything particularly special. The difference when it comes to forward forward 2 is that forward forward 2 is much more threatening. It's +5, and even though the mix-up here isn't very good because it can just be beat by sidestep right duck, Lidia has a lot of atypical, unorthodox options that she can use after this to mix up the opponent. For example, she can do running 2 and then back 1. So if the opponent tries sidestep right duck, the back 1 will realign and catch their duck. But if they try sidestep ducking and then retaliating when Lidia does nothing, she can do a delayed 1+2 for a counter hit launcher. She can also decide to just go in the wolf stance to force the low mix-up, which is especially strong if the opponent is at the wall. She can also forward 2 and then down back 3 to go back in the stance and do something like this. And this is the cornerstone of Lidia's stance. This is how you actually make her pressure good. You're not necessarily mixing up your moves with mid and low like the typical casino gameplay that so many people talk about. But what strong Lidia players are going to do is instead do something like forward 2, wait it out, see how the opponent responds, and then respond yourself accordingly with one of your big moves. You only really want to do stuff when you know it's going to hit. You don't want to just do horse and then mid or low, because these moves are very punishable and don't net you a lot of reward. Instead, you want to use the opponent's momentum and use it against them. And the great thing about forward 2 is that in the opposite way of down forward 2, the opponent always has to respond to this move in some way. If the opponent just starts blocking, you can do back 1 or down back 3 or wolf 4 or wolf 2, and this is how you actually utilize the mix-up if the opponent is blocking. And then if they're responding to it, you have different tools that you can use if they're doing that. Like say they do power crush, this will be power crush, then you get the counter hit, you can activate heat from here, and now you just have control of neutral. So That's one of the things that makes forward 4-2 so much stronger than down 4-2, is that there are a lot of layers and different aspects to the mind game. And if you ever play against a strong Lidia player, this is the kind of thing that they're going to do. And it is terrifying to deal with when someone knows what they're doing, they have strong fundamental knowledge of the game, they have a good control of the character, and they know the matchups really well and what to do against certain opponents given the situation. So getting back to the point of forward 4-2, just to reiterate, that's what makes forward 4-2 so good on block. So if they choose, sorry, there we go, is what I said was going to happen. But if, okay, this is not working well. But if we do forward 4-2 here and then get that counter hit, now we go into heat, and now we have all of our heat stuff. And because of that, we have a lot of options that we can choose from here as well. We can just not even go into heaven and earth and then do something like this, get the link, and now look, we didn't even have any stacks, and their health went into rage off of 2 frame traps that we just did the same thing. And the other neat part about this too is if we get this counter hit here, we do this, we do while running 1, and then down back 3, the opponent didn't do the punish like I set them up to do, but then we get that same trade situation, we can do political storm, heat dash, and then also if we see that they're not responding, then we can do like forward 4-2 into nothing and then go from there. So there are a lot of choices, there are a lot of things that she can do after forward 4-2, and that's what makes the tool so versatile. And I'm taking the time to explain all of this because it's going to be important for you to know all of this information about forward 4-2 versus down 4-2 in the future as the video continues. But it's not just about the situation that forward 4-2 gives that makes it so important, but it's also the fact that when Lidia is in heat, forward 4-2 breaks through armor. And this is an extremely important concept to know about forward 4-2, and this is the main thing that makes it so much stronger over doing the easy input, which is down 4-2, and is what makes the execution here so important. So I have Steve right now set up to do heat burst after he blocks. If I do this and then forward 4-2, you can see he doesn't even have the time to be able to do his armor move. And what this means is when we're in a +6 situation, if we have the execution to be able to do a 2-frame link here with forward 4-2, then we can beat jabs, we can beat down jabs, we can beat power crush, we can beat anything that the opponent does when we are in heat. That's the difference here. If we instead do while running 1 into down 4-2, you see how down 4-2 just loses to power crush. And this is especially prevalent against characters that have safe power crushes. The heat engager aspect of it isn't going to be relevant in season 2, so we'll not go over that. But when it comes to characters with safe power crushes, this makes it even harder to, even more important to be able to do. So because of forward 4-2 being a 13-frame move, and because of how the input buffer works, the fastest that this move can come out if you do it on a 1-frame link is 14 frames. The 1-frame link, if you don't know, means that you are hitting the forward and 2 button on the frame that you recover from the animation. In order to beat jab in a +6 situation, like after you do while running 1, it requires a 2-frame link. This is exactly the same in execution as Brian doing back 4 into forward 4-2. So all of that is just covering the 2-frame link when it comes to forward 4-2. But there are some things about it that are also harder. For example, if we do back 1 here, we're +2, and the same concept applies. We can back 1, forward 4-2, and then heat dash for full combo here. And I'll do the full combo here just to demonstrate it. But being able to do that for 68 damage is quite nice, especially if we're in heat. Again, we can't down forward 2 here. That's just not an option that we have. Makes forward 4-2 really good in any of these sort of situations. Hell, even if we're only +1 after, say, a jab, this still works, and we can still enforce our pressure this way. So it gives us a lot of versatility in a multitude of situations, even regardless of the +6. One thing you might be saying to yourself, though, is, oh, but what about sidestep? Sidestep should beat forward 4-2 because forward 4-2 is a linear move. And this is where we're going to start moving into the 1-frame links. with forward forward 2. So this is going to be similar in execution to stuff like perfect electric and taunt jet upper. Now, those inputs are harder than forward forward 2, but it's the same concept. You have to hit the button on the same frame that you recover, and if you do that, you get big reward. So in Lydia's case, if she does forward forward 2 as a 1 frame link after she's +6, so I have to say while running 1, while running 3, or most importantly, Heaven in her 2 here, then she will actually track sidestep, and hopefully I can do this first try. Of course I can't. The game kind of died there when I tried doing that, but like I said, this is going to be a little bit tough just because of how I have the recording set up. But there you see I have Steve set to sidestep left. I did forward forward 2, and it tracked the sidestep left. This is the same if Steve sidesteps right, if he sidewalks right. The only way that characters can get out of this is sidewalk left. It's the only way. You can see that Steve is sidewalking left here. Then he gets out of this situation. I messed it up again. It is the only way to be able to avoid this. Here's the thing though. The thing is that if you commit to sidewalk left, hop kick tracks to sidewalk left. Also, if you don't want to take as much of a risk, down forward 2 tracks to sidewalk left. So you'd still have a true mix-up option here. There is a way out of it, and it is going to depend on character-to-character basis, because different characters have different sidesteps. Some might be able to sidestep it easier, like Lily. Some characters can't sidestep it at all, like Jack. But this is still an option that basically shuts down sidestepping completely as long as you have the execution for it, which means that the opponent doesn't have any way to be able to deal with this situation should you have the execution. It needs to be reiterated, this is hard. This is broken if you can do it reliably. It's part of the utility of forward forward 2, but it requires an insane amount of execution to be able to do consistently. In my opinion, because of the execution that's required here, because it's off of, again, a 1 frame link to be able to do this, this is fine. It's perfectly reasonable to have something set up like this when it requires so much execution that only a couple of people in the world are able to do this consistently. And again, I still have him set to sidewalking, so it's not like the greatest example. But regardless of that, I can feel it lagging. But that's sort of what we're talking about here. That's part of Lydia's high execution requirements, but you can see if you do have that, how this situation becomes completely insane. Now, moving on to a different utility of this link, because it's not just off of the plus situation. This link with forward forward 2 encompasses pretty much every situation that you put into in the game if you want to use forward forward 2, and that is one of the things that makes Lydia so execution heavy, because even though you have characters like Kazuya and Brian that do these 1 frame links off of like counter hit down forward 2, or obviously taunt of taunt jet upper, those are specific situations that you're using in that you can train your muscle memory. For Lydia, you're using this link in every single situation in the game. In a similar way how Mishimas are going to be doing electrics for every move in the game that's -15, even though the recovery frames on it can vary a lot. Building up that muscle memory is very important and makes you a much, much stronger Mishima player. In the same way that building up this muscle memory forward 2 across all of these situations in the game makes Lydia a stronger character. And that's why, even though this is easier than some other Link inputs, it makes her difficult because you have to use it in such a large variety of situations. And I want to use back 1 here just as a demonstration on what you can do if you master this link. Now, just for a recap here, if you don't know, back 1 is +2 on block. And what you might see a lot of Lydia players do is something like back 1 into down forward 2. The problem with doing this flowchart is that even though this is coming out essentially as the 2 frame link on back 1, we have all of the things that we talked about before when it comes to the strength of forward 2 on block as opposed to down forward 1 if they don't do anything. But the other problem is if you do something like down forward 2, then generic magic 4 like moves are going to counter hit launch you. So you're putting yourself at a big risk to characters that have any magic 4s like this. Characters like Steve, like King, but even characters that have magic 4s that just knock you on the ground like Elisa and Chin, who gets heat engager and stuff like that. So the difference here when doing forward 2, and again, apologies if there's a cut, because like I said, the recording is making this a lot harder because of the variable frame rate. If you do forward 2 as a 1-frame link, you beat not only magic 4s, but also down forward 1s, whereas down forward 2 cannot beat that. And this becomes the cornerstone of Lidia's neutral game. Being able to do this 1-frame link exponentially increases the amount of things that you can do in neutral. The reason for this is if you don't use this and you need to be safe, back 1 into down forward 1 is kinda all you got. And this move is only +2 on hit, -5 on block. It's not great. But if we do the 1-frame link there, you can see how that beats back 1. Again, we have to do this as a 1-frame link on the frame that we recover from back 1, but you can see I do this so much that I can do it consistently, even when I'm recording. And so the other thing about this too is it means that if the opponent tries checking you with, say, a down forward 1, which I have Steve set up to do here, if I do down forward 2, you can see how that trades. Now, if this trades with something like a down forward 1, then I do get full combo, so that's quite nice. But obviously, if it's something on counter hit that launches you and you don't get that, and it also depends on like the 13-frame move that's coming out. If I instead do the 1-frame link here, then I get the counter hit even through down forward 1, which limits their options greatly. If the character isn't a character like Yoshimitsu or Elisa, where they have a 12-frame mid like the down forward 4s, then it means that they can only do jabs. Because otherwise, this forward 2, oh my god, here it goes, the last time I was gonna demonstrate it. This forward 2, stop! This forward 2, there we go, gives you heat engager, right? And if you are already in heat, then it gives you, oh my god, it gives you full launch, right? So this is a very scary situation to deal with. And even if you don't get full launch here, even if you don't wanna, if you have more heat and don't wanna go for this full option when we are in heat, we can instead do something like this. Oh my god, we can instead do something like this, and then we just get to do all of that, and we're in the same situation as before with the +6 that we were talking about, and then we can force our forward 2 from there. So overall, it's just a much better situation all around when you do this. And then we also talk about the stuff with armor, right? So if you're in heat and they decide to do armor move, then forward 2 just blows through it. So this means that the only option that the opponent has to be able to deal with back 1 into this is jab, right? That's the only thing that they can do to properly deal with this. And the problem with doing jab here, so let's say we do 1-2 with Steve, is now we have access to down 2. So if the opponent keeps trying to jab, down 2 counter, it also gives us heat engager. And look at what we're taking if we do forward 2 and they call it out. Now, of course, some characters like Ron, Lars, and some others are going to have heat engager 10-frame counter hit moves, and that sucks, right? So it depends on the matchup whether or not the character you're playing against is gonna make your life harder if you do this. But against a character like Steve, and this is part of the reason I'm using him to demonstrate, we can down 2 here and then do this. So now the opponent is actually put in a proper mix-up situation that we're just not getting off of something like down forward 2. And this is especially prevalent when heat, because again, they can't armor here. So now they're only forced to do that. And then we can do something like this and then get 43 damage. Or if we're in heat and we want to go in the heaven and earth, we can force our mix up through here, right? So that just, it gives us a plethora of options that we can choose from if we do this, as opposed to just doing the down forward 2, because stuff like, you know, like down forward 1 or other moves just check this move a lot better. So I shouldn't say down forward ones because it depends on the 13 frame mid. I should be saying stuff like magic fours. The point is that you're putting yourself at less risk and you're giving yourself much greater reward at the cost of having to do something that is extremely difficult and extremely high execution. And before we move on, there's one last thing that I want to show you that I forgot to cover in my initial recording, hence why the continuity error with the outfits and my face cam is gone and everything. But that is Lydia's equivalent of a perfect electric / taunt jet upper. Now, with everything that we've talked about up until now, one of the main takeaways is that the fastest you can get forward 2 to come out on is frame 14 with a 1 frame link. And Lidia has a move that on counter hit leaves her at plus 14, and that is sidestep 4. Now, she has a couple of other situations too where she is left at plus 14, and being able to convert into forward 2 off it is really important, particularly in some trades and such, like if down back 3 trades with jab as an example, and then you left at plus 14. But what she can do in neutral outside of these weird niche trade situations where it's important to know about is normally you do sidestep 4 plus 14 and do political storm, right? And so when you're in heat 2, normally what you do, sidestep 4, political storm, heat dash here, and you get 66 damage. It's a great chunk of damage for a counter hit move like sidestep 4. But the thing is that you can go a little bit further with it, because with how the frames work on it, with it being plus 14, you can actually link into forward 2 with a 1 frame link. This sort of idea and execution is the same in concept as electric and taunt jet upper, both of which are moves that come out by doing a 1 frame link. This input, of course, is much easier than electric and taunt jet upper is to do, but it is still quite difficult. You go ahead and try it yourself. It's definitely a step down from the 2, but it is pretty tough to do. Sidestep 4 into forward 2 is the input here, and it, of course, leaves you in stance. And while this doesn't have a lot of practicality outside of heat, when you are in heat, of course, forward 2 on normal hit gains its counter hit property, hence why I've had the well, I guess the reason why I've had counter hit on is because it's only on counter hit, but it gains its counter hit property on normal hit, and that means that when sidestep 4 connects as a counter hit, you can convert off of it instead of political storm in the forward 2 course 2 heat dash for full combo. And so real quick, I'll just show you what that looks like here. So as you can see, the wall carry and the damage that you get out of that is kind of insane. It's definitely a step up from the 66 damage, but again, this is a very hard input to do. It is a 1 frame link. And so despite the reward you get out of it, the difficulty is still there to compensate for the reward that you get off of this. On top of that, sidestep 4 being such a niche move, this is not something that would come up in many practical applications, but as you can see with how I did it there, because I've been trying to practice this because I just think it's a cool thing to do, you can land this consistently with enough time and effort. But this is by far Lydia's highest execution move, and it is up there with the sort of like classic hailed high execution moves like perfect electric and taunt jet upper. So if you just want a really cool high execution thing to practice and to show off no matter what level you're at with Lidia, sidestep 4 counter hit into forward 2 as a like a 1 frame link into full combo is a pretty cool thing that you can do. And then just to give you context as well for the position that we're at on the stage for that combo, I do have my little thing up here, and I apologize with how I'm gonna have to do this. It's a bit weird because just because of how my hotkeys are set up, but as you can see, that combo was from about 75% of the stage on the beach stage, on Lidia's stage. So it definitely has a lot of wall carry as well. So you get good benefit out of not just the combo and the damage, but also the wall carry is just kind of crazy. So even though this is a bit of an awkward spot to throw this in here, I think that when we're talking about Lidia's execution as a whole, it's still extremely important to cover because it is by far Lidia's highest execution technique, and it is one of the highest execution techniques in the entire game. It's certainly in the top 5, and I think it would be a mistake to not include it despite forgetting to do it in the recording. So anyway, this is where I'm going to get cut off now, and we're going to go back to the original recording. It's going to be a little bit of an awkward transition. Now, I can speak some more about the link with Forward Forward 2, the execution requirements on it, other aspects that you can use this in the neutral, but I think I've already talked about this enough, and I think you get the idea on how versatile this move is, what you can do with it, and how learning this execution really improves Lidia's neutral a lot. This is why I say that Forward Forward 2 is Lidia's signature move, and it's one of her best moves. It's not better than Heaven and Earth 2, but outside of Heat, Forward Forward 2 is her best move, because like we were talking about at the beginning with Kazuya, it has a lot of versatility. You can use it for keep out, counter hit fishing, offense, defense, the links that I'm talking about, stopping, sidestepping, just fishing for launcher, beating armor, those two things. If you're in heat, there are a lot of things that you can do with it, but also a lot of those things rely on you being able to have the proper execution to be able to do it. And so the last thing I want to just demonstrate here, because it's kind of outside of the park, but is still something that comes up, is punishing. Because Lidia doesn't have a lot of moves that have long-range punishment. So for example, if Kazuya does down back 1, 2, if I'm like out here and I block this is minus 19, but Lidia doesn't have a move that actually punishes this except for Forward Forward 2. If I could actually do it right, I'm trying to get in. But Forward Forward 2 is the only move that punishes this, and to punish it properly, I have to actually link it, again, in many ways like an electric, and I'm still messing it up, which is hilarious. I just don't want to whiff it, because I feel like that's going to make me look even sillier than anything. But this is a situation that comes up in some situations with some characters, and knowing these situations and being confident to be able to punish with Forward Forward 2 is really important in some scenarios. So I've talked enough about the Forward Forward 2 link. Let's move on to the next most important thing with Lidia, and that is going to be microdashes. And microdashes is something that I've talked about before in a video, as I have with the Forward Forward 2 link. But the short of how it works with microdashes is that it's very good at the wall. And the reason for that is because of how Lidia's Oki works. So we have a couple of ways to be able to enforce Lidia's Oki, and the one that I've been using more recently that I think is actually broken and contender for one of the best lulls in the game is from crouch down forward 3. And the reason for this is if we microdash into down 1+2, that's guaranteed. And so this is doing 39 damage at the wall, and this is without any stacks. So if I go to 3 stacks here, which improves the damage on down 1+2, then this is doing 46 damage and still giving us Oki. It's still giving us a mix-up afterwards. It's ridiculous. So, and the only way to do this though is with a microdash, because we're in crouch. We need to use the microdash to be able to get out of crouching, so the crouch cancel, and we also need to get more in the opponent's face, because if we just actually it might be fine on this stage, but do I have the opponent set to wake up backwards? Oh no, I don't, because I have them on defense. That's why it's not working. But if I have the opponent set to wake up backwards here and I just do this, you can see how that whiffs, right? But even if we're off axis here, as long as we microdash properly and we're at the wall, then this will still hit even if they wake up backwards and give us a mix-up situation. It makes this low absurd. And the Lidia players that I've shown this to, and hell, even the people that don't play Lidia that I've shown this to, have expressed to me how they feel like this is one of the most insane, most broken things in the game. When I use it against them, it is just ridiculous what you can do off of this. And just to further demonstrate some of the things that you can do, again, I have a whole video breaking this down, but that's half health, right? That's just half health that we can also mix up with back two, which we just talked about with the one frame link. Also puts them in a mix-up situation, and if they decide to jab and we do down two, then this wall splats, and then we get full combo off of that. And then we can also loop the wall offense, because if we wall splat them, do a combo here, let's say we activate heat burst, and then spike them on the ground, which actually doesn't work against Kazuya, which I wasn't privy to. There we go. So we get the same situation. And so using a micro dash here is extremely important to Lidia's Oki game and her wall game. You're losing out on a bit of damage, yes. If we do something like this, and then we do Blossom here, this is going to do 78 damage. If we do this, and then we do this, and then we do, say, this is doing 58 damage. So we're losing out on about 20, but we're getting such a strong mix-up. We're either getting 6 extra damage guaranteed if they stay on the ground, or the potential for 39, because down 1+2 does 39 damage if they stand up without the scaling, while mixing it with a plus on block mid that leads to a non-mix-up. So in my mind, this is worth it. Some Lidia players disagree, but and it depends on the situation, of course, but in my opinion, this just does so much, and we're not even doing the full thing because it doesn't even work on Kazuya. But you can see when we do that whole thing and we do the forward 431, the damage difference is even less. It's about 10 points or so, and we're getting that insane Oki. But again, it relies on microdashing. The other reason why the microdash is important here is because if the opponent rolls after you do the down 1+2 here, if you do a micro dash, you'll get down 1 and it'll realign with the opponent. If you don't do micro dash and you just do down 1+2, you whiff, you're staring at the wall, and then you just get killed. So it allows for an option select here, and it also allows you to micro dash into something like back 1, which realigns and then starts our pressure again, and you can react to the tech throw with that before you do the down 1+2. So that's also an option that you have on top of micro dashing into something like down back 3. There are also some situations where you want to use micro dash in neutral. For example, after while running 1 here, if the opponent would actually block it, if you do down back 3 immediately, and they backdash, yeah, there is an option from the backdash. They backdash here, then down back 3 actually whiffs. But if you do while running 1 micro dash in the down back 3, then it'll hit. So it's creating a mix-up situation here between forward 2, and you can use that forward input to just do down back 3. So another instance of micro dash being important, and because Lidia is so short range, being able to do that micro dash in these situations is super important to actually being able to continue your offense and stay in the opponent's face and within your optimal range. So I hope that showing you those two concepts of Lidia's execution has shown how strong Lidia's neutral can be. It does require effort. It does require high execution techniques, but if you are able to master them, then it improves Lidia's neutral game exponentially. The reason why you see a lot of people, including pro players, talk about how bad Lidia's execution is because most Lidia players aren't utilizing those things. But I hope that that has given you some insight into how stuff like back 1 can control the neutral game better, how a from crouch mix up when combined with the proper micro dashing can be very, very strong. I have the opponent set to roll, so this isn't really going exactly how I wanted it to. It's just another day here at youtube.com/@Sesujin. But just in general, how a lot of things that Lidia can do can really smother the opponent and make it very difficult for them to be able to realistically do a whole lot. to combat Lydia's control of the neutral game. Now, moving on from that, let's start talking about some of the high execution stuff that Lidia has in combos. And like I said at the beginning of this video, Lidia has just about every type of execution in the game that she can utilize. The only thing she doesn't have that I can think of is stance canceling, like do glide cancels. But besides that, she has just about everything, and it's all useful. And that brings me to dash jabs, because Lidia's optimal wall carry is off of dash jabs. And you just saw from the microdash segment, if you've seen some of my other videos, how strong Lidia can be at the wall. And in my opinion, she's one of the strongest characters at the wall in the game. Now, there are characters that are completely fundamentally busted at the wall. Like Xiao Yu is obviously extremely strong at the wall. Brian's really good. Yoshi's really good. And I don't think that Lidia is necessarily better than those characters, but I think that she's comparable. I think that her ability to pressure at the wall is strong enough that she really can contend with some of those characters that have the best wall presence in the game. And that's why having optimal wall carry with Lidia is vitally important. So we're on the arena stage because the arena stage is going to be the best demonstration of what she gets with dash jabs to be able to get her full wall carry combos out. So here we are at the wall, and we're just gonna do a fairly standard Lidia combo here. So we're gonna do this, we'll do that, we'll heat burst, and then we're going to do blossom. And you can see that brings them right to the wall, right? It doesn't wall spot them, but it brings them right to the wall. So now let's do that same combo, but with some dash jabs. So let's go here, boop, boop, boop. There we go. And you can see just how much more wall carry that gets. Right, I could even get more if I wanted to, but you can see how that gets all the way to the wall. I can get my follow-up. I accidentally didn't do the while running political storm, but it's fine. You get the idea here when it comes to just how much that dash jabs can improve your wall carry. It's crazy how much it gives you over the standard combo route with Lidia. And the great part about this too is if I do the generic combo here, so let's go here, bop, 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 bop. And if I do the same ender without heat burst, then this is about how far I get. Again, it's about to the wall. But if I instead do this dash jab combo without having heat burst available, 1, 2, 3, you can see that I can still run up and do that. Now, at this point, I can't fully convert to the wall, but you can see how much closer I get. You can see just how close I am to actually being able to wall swap the opponent from full stage without having any heat. That's just how strong Lidia's dash jabs are, how much mileage she can get out of them. It's the same with like while rising too. A standard combo that you might see here is something like, ooh, I don't even do this combo, but this is a combo that you might see. I don't know how this combo works. So a standard combo you might see off of while rising 2 is this combo. There you go. And you can see again how much wall carry this gets, right? But if we instead do dash jabs here, check this out. 1, 2, 3, 4, bop, heat burst, pop, 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 at the wall, full combo. It's about 80 damage if the wall situation didn't go all funky there. So again, you can see how in a lot of instances with Lidia's launches, it just gets you so much. If we do something like hot kick, I don't even know what the normal combo is. I just do this personally. I know some people do this with like Wolf 4. I think they do something like this. But the odd thing that you can do here is you can do the same thing. You can go here, 1, 2, little micro dash into that, and then you get the conversion after, which I just didn't do because I was feeling lazy, but let me do this proper. So we do a little micro dash there, and then we can get a full conversion. You can see just how much more wall carry that we get off of that, right? And then we can also do something like hot kick, and if we want, we can just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we can do this, and then bop, bop, bop. And you see we get even more wall carry off of that. A lot less damage, but we basically win wall to wall with hot kick. So being able to do these dash jabs in combos, super vital to Lidia's wall game. And the reason why, like we demonstrated before, is if we do 1, 2, 3, 4, go here, activate, and then bring all the way to the wall, then we can run up, down 1, and then force that Oki situation we were talking about before with the microdashes, right? So it gives us so much reward, it gives us so much presence in the neutral, it allows us to start mixing up the opponents after they wake up, because now we have access to like our from crouch game, so we have like from crouch down forward 3, which we demonstrated before, but also we have, if they start trying to duck that, like while rising 1, and then if that connects while rising 1, 4, that allows us to loop it, and it's just such a good situation to be in when you're at the wall. It makes dash jabs with Lidia absolutely vital. But not only that, also being able to do instant while running, because as you saw when we were doing those dash jab combos, when I did this and I did 1, 2, 3, 4, this is instant while running 1, right? So, and that's also another aspect of the execution, is being able to do instant while running. And it's not just in combos too, but now we're gonna go a little bit back into the neutral game with Lidia, because doing instant while running is very important when Lidia's in heat. The reason why is because while running 1 is a mix-up tool. So the reason why is because while running 1 goes into Heaven and Earth, but only at +5, which means if you do the main tool in Heaven and Earth here, which is Heaven and Earth 2, it can actually be armored through if the opponent knows that you're going to do it. The thing is though, the Heaven and Earth transition is so fast that they have to commit to doing the response after while running 1. They have to commit to saying, you're going to do Heaven and Earth 2, so I'm going to armor move. And if they do that, we can cancel it and then forward 2 to beat their armor move, to beat whatever they're committing to. Same thing with sidestep. They can also sidestep, and I'll actually have the Kazuya here demonstrate with sidestep right. We can actually do this, and then the Kazuya can sidestep the Heaven and Earth 2, which isn't great for us, but they have to commit to it. So again, if we do that 1 frame link, which is what we talked about at the beginning of the video, then we catch their sidestep, we beat their arm move, we beat the jab, because we're +6 if we don't go in the stance. So we get all of those benefits. But then outside of that, if they decide to just hold block here, if they decide to just do nothing, then while running 1 into while running 1, look at the chip damage this is doing 11 chip every time that we do this, and we're threatening with that mix-up, because if we go in the stance here, this is doing 17 and leaving us at +6, just like while running 1 is. And if they decide again to do arm move or anything, then while running 1 just blows through it. So we can just keep doing this, and look at all of the gray health. And they're constantly being forced into a mix-up situation. But if they choose to just sit there and block all day, then they're still going to take damage, like if we're poking him with lows. Because remember, down 2 does 12 damage. While running 1 is doing 11 damage on block, so it's serviceable to just doing a low over and over and over and over again. Granted, they can recover if they go in the heat or whatever, but it's still damage that we're doing. We're getting them close to rage. We're getting closer to just ending the round. Now, whenever season 2 happens, this damage might be slightly different, but it's still a really good tool to force them to respond. What does this have anything to do with instant while running though? Well, it's a similar concept as our forward 2. This has 13 frame stop, just instead of doing a forward input, we're doing a while running input. And what that means is if the opponent does something that's 13 frames, so let's just get the Kazuya here to do his down forward 4 for the sake of simplicity. I guess I should say his tsunami kick or whatever, but if we do instant while running 1 here, then if he does that move, then he just gets hit for 78 damage. Right, so we're not only just beating through his armor move, and we can stop his sidestep if we want to afford 4-2 and all those other things we explained before, but then if we're doing instant while running 1, then we're just chipping, and if they try taking the turn, if they try doing anything in response, including like a down forward 1, and if we have the execution and just do instant while running 1, we not only blow through him, but then we do 78 damage. And the other thing too is that while running 1 is hit confirmable. With negative edge, you can hit confirm while running 1, and I can actually show you this by just having the Kazuya here set on random block for everything. But basically what we do is we hold back, and then when we see the opponent get hit, we just let go of the back button. And because of the little zoom in and pause when counter hit happens on, well, just normal hit I should say, happens on while running 1, we can actually see hit confirm that. We have plenty of time to be able to do it. And just to demonstrate here, maybe he will eventually block this. Nope, still not blocking it. Just refuses to. Nope, he's still not. Will he ever? He's not. It's almost making me think I have the setting wrong. Do I have the setting wrong? No, it is on random block. Let's try this again. Nope, he's still getting hit by it, still getting hit in the face like every Kazuya player ever. This is crazy. Oh my god, stop getting hit by the damn move. Oh, now you decide to block when I did jab just to make sure. I swear to God. Wow, you are insane. There we go, Jesus Christ. But you can see there, as long as we have the timing, we can actually hit confirm the while running one or not, because you saw him block there and we didn't go in the stance. So it's a true pressure tool, and on hit, we don't have to guess. We get that 80 damage guaranteed. So that's what makes the instant while running so good. Not only can we use it in combos, but we can also use it in neutral, we can use it in heat, and we can just use it for our general pressure, which is one of the things that makes it so strong to be able to use, especially when we're using it in tandem with forward 2. By the way, you have absolutely no idea how infuriating it was to do this section with the input lag I have from recording. If you saw the footage, you would see me going slowly descending into madness over the course of that segment. But anyway, that is then going to segue us into another aspect of Lidia's execution, which is actually going to be a bit of a callback to Tekken 7, because Lidia actually has Tiger Knee inputs. Yeah, this is a bit of a weird one. This is something that Donna August spread around, where just like, you know how Elisa in Tekken 7 had Tiger Knee inputs. Now, if you don't know what a Tiger Knee input is, basically what you're doing is you're inputting, instead of doing like the motion or direction and then the motion, instead of doing in the opposite order, you're doing the motion and then the direction. And this was the basis of Elisa's combos, where she would do Tiger Knee dive kicks to be able to continuously hit the opponent after a combo, and then do something like instant while running 1 to screw them and then finish from there. She would also do it for some punishment, like TK 3+4, and because that, when she had meter, gave her full combo. And Lidia doesn't exactly have that, but more what it is a combo under with Blossom, because Lidia, of course, has motion inputs. She has it with Blossom with Core Circle Forward. And what you can do in this game is exactly the same as it was in Tekken 7, where you can do a motion input and then input a direction, and you will get that whatever that direction is, and then if you hit a button, the motion input will carry over. This is actually, if you know about Julia, how Julia's mad access works. The way that you hold the input is you backdash, you throw in the core circle back while you're backdashing, and then the mad access is locked and loaded. And if you do forward 2, then you'll get the grab because you input that core circle back, even if it was like 40 frames earlier, and you can still move around and do stuff. You just have to hit that forward 2 and you'll just get it to come out. So these things are a similar concept to what Lidia has here with Blossom. And this is something that Rainbow Neos actually does a lot, and it's what he refers to as Dash Blossom. I don't know if that's something that other Lidia players refer to it as, but it can actually be fairly strong instead of doing the dash jab combo. It is quite difficult to do, but basically the idea is if I do Blossom here, you can see the range on it, but if I do Core Circle Forward, and I get the timing right on it, you can see how I do a little dash there, right? You see how I do a little dash and it gives it more range? So what you can do in combos, actually I need to reset here the wall situation. I shouldn't have done that before. Okay, I have to change characters because this combo actually doesn't work on Kazuya. And this is the only one I know of Dash Blossom, because this is not a technique that I use personally. And I'll talk about why in a second. There we go. Okay, I got it there. So you can see that was a 71 damage combo, and there was no tailspin in that, by the way. And we reached wall to wall. So the wall carry potential on the Dash Blossom here is immense. Being able to do a 71 damage wall-to-wall carry combo with Heat Burst, again, without using a tailspin, by the way, is kind of crazy. And this is especially good on stages that have a wall break, because if you're not using the tailspin before the wall break and you're going wall to wall, that means you can obviously still use the tailspin after the wall break and be able to continue your combo, probably not to the other wall just because of the combo length, but still be able to continue your combo otherwise, and then be able to get close to the wall, whereas with a normal combo you really wouldn't, because Lidia doesn't have a lot of follow-up after a balcony break or a floor break or anything like that. So this is a very, very strong technique that you can use. Personally, I don't use this because I find it way too finicky. Now, that's not to say that it's unreliable and it's unrealistic. Again, this is something that Rainbow Neos uses a lot. This is kind of his signature thing, and he's able to do it very consistently. It's very impressive how he has the execution to do it. For me, I find it too inconsistent. And personally, I just prefer using dash jabs. That's kind of my thing instead, because again, if we do a similar combo here and we do this like we demonstrated before, and if I actually, you know, did the combo correctly, you saw what the wall carry there was before. It's just the difference is that we're having to use tailspin on the while running 1, but we get the wall carry here anyway. And of course, it's going to drop because this game is an inconsistent mess, and apparently where you end up on the wall varies from character to character when you're on the same stage, which is just great. There we go. Okay. And then you can see, like, I just wanted to demonstrate the potential of the balcony break on this stage because of the balcony break situation that we were talking about before. But you can see how if you get that right, then you can break the balcony with that. You still have your screw, you can do your screw, and you could potentially do like back one in the heat dash and maybe even get to the wall, depending on the combo. So it does have its use, it does have its utility. It's just like, it's a little too inconsistent because it feels like some characters, some characters the combo doesn't work, because after a heat burst, like half of the characters down forward forward slide 3 doesn't work on, so you have to know about that. It's very character specific. It feels very weird, and sometimes it feels like it drops just based off angle if it just doesn't feel like working on a given day. So I know that you can do it consistently, but it's just, to me, it feels too random, so I don't do it, but that's another thing that you can do. Now, outside of combos, there is still a use for this, and that is on core circle forward 4 if you would stop approaching me. Thank you. So one of the problems with Lidia's homing moves, of course, is that they have no range. Like, core circle forward 4 is whiffing from out here, right? Like, range 2.8 just whiffs. And it's slow, it's floatable, it's high, it's not great, and it's only +1 on block. But if we use that same concept, we can do core circle forward, and that hit from range 3. You see that? So this is another tool that we can actually use to control neutral a little bit, because if we're out here, now it does make it take long because we have to do that dash, but this is something that we can do out here if the opponent's like step guarding a lot from this range and we want to be able to get in, then this technique is actually a pretty cool way to be able to have a long range homing move. Again, requires a little bit of execution because again, it's a TK input, but you can see how this homing move is hitting from range over range 3.28, not quite there, but you actually have to do it. But yeah, around range 3.2, it's actually hitting. So increasing the range of this move that would normally not hit from like what, range 2.5? Yeah, range 2.5, giving it about a like almost like a 25-30% increase in range, somewhere around there, is pretty good, and it can be really useful. And now we're going to get to the point of Lidia's execution that most of you probably know about and is the only thing that you think Lidia has any execution for, and that's blue sparks. And the thing is that blue sparks, you know, I mean, they're kind of like just frames like what Lee has and such, but they're not as important. Really, the blue sparks on Lidia don't do anything. So if I do like 3-2 and I don't do blue spark, it does 19 damage. If I do 3-2 with blue spark, it does 21, it does 2 damage. Big one. It doesn't really matter. If I do a combo that's just no blue sparks here, and then I do this, and then do this, and then like, again, I don't even know what the combo is, but that's like 55 damage, right? If I do it with blue sparks and I do this, 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 and that's like 63. So it's an increase in damage, but it's not a lot, right? And it can be neat to learn that, but it's not vital. It's not as important as all of the other stuff we talked about, and even some of the stuff we're going to talk about in the future, although the stuff we talk about in the future is kind of pushing what we call execution. But again, I'm putting it in here because this video is supposed to cover all aspects of execution, whether it's big or minor. But at the end of the day, the blue spots just don't really matter. And they can also be quite difficult for very little reward. For example, her parries, of course, have a blue spot in them. So if I do like jab and then, let me do it like this. If I do like jab and then jab, just for an easy way to be able to get one of these, and I do punch parry here, this has a blue spot in it. But the problem is, it's a 2-frame window. So we're talking about like 1 frame difference from Lee's, what is it, down forward 4, slide 4? The one that on blue spot does damage on block. It's a 1 frame difference in that regard in terms of how hard it is to actually hit the blue spot and the amount of damage. Like you can see, I barely do this move and I don't practice this move at all, so I can't do the blue spot, but it does 2 extra damage. And that's true for all of Lydia's parries as well, even this one. I don't even remember what the blue spot is. Does this even have a blue spot? I don't know. It might just be this one now. I can't remember. I know that in Tekken 7 it did. I can't even remember if it does in Tekken 8. I know down back 3+4 does. But it's giving you 2 damage. It's just, it doesn't matter. Now, you're not losing anything by going for it, but it's not important. With one exception. And the one exception is actually Blossom. And the reason why is because for whatever reason, when you do Blossom, actually, let me do a simpler combo because otherwise we're just gonna get to the wall. But you can see the wall carry if I do blue spot Blossom. If I don't do blue spot Blossom, specifically the last hit, you can see that there's actually less wall carry. So it's not the first hit that's actually important here, but it's the second hit that gives you that extra wall carry. So you'll see here, I'll just do, and this is actually very difficult for me to do intentionally here, but you'll see I do that, and it's not even about the first double core circle forward, it's about the back forward 1+2. Because if I just do that, you can see the difference in their animation where they don't do that little spin, and it causes them to have less wall carry. Why that's the case, I don't know. But that's the only blue spot that's important with Lidia, and it's the one that most people actually struggle with. But it's not really that difficult when you know what's going on with like how the input buffer and everything works, because you have an eternity to be able to do this. But it's something that a lot of people struggle with, especially again if we're like out in neutral and we're doing combos, bop 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 bop, and then we have to hold back to cancel the stance and then do it. Yeah, I mean, people can struggle with that. You can see I actually put the first back input in 4 frames too early, so I even dropped it because I'm just rushing everything. Ugh. But anyway, that's blue spots. Not very execution heavy, not very important for Lidia, but if you can consistently do all of her blue spot stuff, then it is pretty flashy and it's something that makes you look neat, but it's not really that important. I guess another caveat as well to talk about is when it comes to forward 2, there's a blue spot on wall running too. You never go for the blue spot specifically. The blue spot, it's really just a means to be able to do forward 2 from running. But you sure look at the blue spot as like, oh, it's the higher execution thing, so I should do it. You really shouldn't. The higher execution thing is actually just forward 2 for the reasons we talked about in the beginning because of how the link works. While running 2 is actually less execution heavy than the forward 2. And again, really the purpose of it is for one, realigning if the opponent sidesteps so you can delay the move, but also just being able to do it out of a running input in general for a bunch of option selects and neutral approaches and some other things. But the blue spot on forward 4-2, I mean, in my opinion, really shouldn't be there because it shouldn't be a blue spot move. Again, it's harder to do the forward input than the while running input the majority of the time. Now we're going to get on to a couple of things that are still important, but aren't really, I'd say, like execution heavy, but they still require some execution, so we're talking about them. And we're going to talk about crouch cancel briefly. So crouch cancel is really important after down 2, and it's the way that you actually are able to to still have control over neutral even though you're -4 after down 2 hits. And the reason why, especially when we go into season 2, I should actually have them set to punish here is because it creates an option select, right? So if I crouch cancel here and my opponent tries taking the turn with something that's linear that we can sidestep. So if my opponent does something like back one here, and I can sidestep left, and it doesn't matter in season 2 because you're going to be able to sidestep both directions with your crouch cancel here, then I can do this, crouch cancel, and then do a nod down too, right? And if they whiff, then I can confirm that and then get my full combo here and then do whatever, right? Or what I could also do, I'm going to throw you over here again, is do this and then like sidestep and then see the whiff and then do this. Or if I want to continue my pressure, do this and then like a back one to mix up with the down two, and then this is just going to allow us to continue our pressure. So if the opponent then, and this is the way that the opponent actually respects the -4, because what a lot of people do intuitively is just say, okay, I did this on -4, I didn't get my counter here, and then back up, and that gives the opponent free reign to do whatever the hell they want. But if we want to still keep control of neutral and keep the opponent guessing, crouch canceling here so that we get that sidestep and we're able to continue going like this is really important, because look, we can just do this, we can just keep going with the down two. We don't really have to care. Now, of course, we're putting ourselves at some risk with it, but it just allows us to be able to stay in control of the game. And then again, we're able to crouch cancel into something like back one, and then that's going to start our offense and have us win neutral because of the links that we talked about at the beginning of the video. You can see why now I talked so much at length about the links and the forward 4-2s and stuff, because of how much it ties into Lidia's neutral game and how important and all-encompassing it is. And so there are other consequences to this too, because if you're doing something like this and you're getting the opponent scared of the sidestep and like doing this and the back one at the wall and such, then if they're starting to be defensive, you can do this and then just force from crouch mix up. And this isn't just something to say that like, oh, Lidia's like, this is gimmicky because she's -4. This works against pro players. You know, this is something I've done against pro players and it works. Just because of the mental game. So it's all about playing the mental game, but being able to do this crouch cancel is very important to that. And then the next thing to talk about is instant while standing, because instant while standing 1 is a really good neutral tool. -30 on block, so if they try hop kicking you afterwards and you just jab, you float them. Tracks to Lidia's weak side, 13 frame move, +4 on hit, right? So we can just keep mixing this up. Natural with a second hit, right? That includes a wall splat. And then you can mix it up with your from crouch low. So you can just keep doing this, get them conditioned to block for the mid because, oh, he's doing the mid. And then maybe just do the second hit here. I did it again. Maybe just do the, like, throw out the second hit here, get them to attack into it, make it seem like, oh, I'm just doing the wall rising 1. And then as soon as they, you know, like, the backs to the wall, you're like, ooh, wall rising 1-4, and then you just get the thing, and then we can go here, bop, 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 boop, and then we get the wall, and now look at this situation, fun. So we can do something like that, right? Or what we can do is also condition them to get used to like the 1 and blocking the 1, and then just throw up front crouch down forward 3, and then that starts our Oki game from there. So overall, just being able to do this like instant while standing, being able to crouch into instant while standing like this, to be able to throw out these instant while standing ones while conditioning your opponent, creating pressure, is really good for actually having lows with Lidia. This is something a lot of people complain about, is that Lidia doesn't have a lot of lows, but front crouch down forward 3 is one of the strongest lows in the game if you utilize it right. Locking down the opponent, making him scared to do anything because of wall rising 1. I should really have them not set the side roll, because it's making this whole like example look really stupid. But just doing this, conditioning them with this, and then throwing out the from crouch down forward 3 to be able to do this is really crazy and really strong for mixing up your Oki game, and also forcing the opponent to actually like interact with you and attack into you, even though you don't have a good low. And then that's going to allow you to start doing stuff like, you know, forward 2 on counter hit, at the wall, bop, bop. This game sucks. And then reset your Oki situation and then go from there. So it's really good. And that's basically it. You know, that's the overview of all of Lidia's execution. This video is so long, Jesus Christ. But I think it just goes to show how much Lidia has in terms of execution. You know, that this is a character that's generally seen as brain dead, easy, no execution, no fundamentals, casino stance 50-50 character. And the reason why I wanted to make this video is in large part because of that, because a lot of pros reciprocate this rhetoric about Lidia, and not just pros, but also streamers, and it's just not true. And I hope that this video has shown you that, even though I don't think a lot of people are going to have watched through the full thing. I think just the length in general of it is going to really show and encapsulate how much there actually is to Lidia's execution and neutral game, and hopefully start changing some minds and maybe start inspiring more people to pick up and play the character, because that's what I'm here for. I like seeing more people play Lidia because I think she's one of the coolest and best designed characters in the game. And I see so many people, again, whether it's pro players or content creators or influencers or whoever, who kind of say the opposite of that because they're just not exposed to this side of Lidia. They're exposed to the side of Lidia where it's just forward doing the stance instead of all of the interesting and nuanced things that we talk about here. And this isn't just conjecture. This isn't just talking about this for the sake of it and saying, oh, this is like in theory what she has. These are the things you utilize to be a good Lidia player. And the things that people complain about, the reason why you see some people say that she's a horribly designed character, she's one of the worst designed characters in the game and she needs a rework, is because they're seeing Lidia from the side of someone who doesn't really main the character or know how to play her well. And this is something that you see at every level, including at God of Destruction, because most people don't main Lidia. You know, like Lidia for the most part is played as a secondary character. How many people can you think of besides me that actually main Lidia? It's not a lot. A lot of people that are going to play are going to play as a secondary. And so they're exposed to a side of her that is fundamentally flawed, isn't fun to play against, isn't fun to play, is very boring and makes you want to fall asleep. It's not the fault necessarily of the people that are saying that. It's not anyone's fault really. It's just that no, they don't know. And how can they know if no one's talking about this, if no one plays the character? And so I want to be someone that gets this information out there and talks about it, so we can all start talking about, and we can start talking about the more interesting and in-depth side of Lidia, instead of talking about this very shallow skill floor that she has that a lot of people stick with because no one wants to bother to actually learn the character and main the character and explore this fun and interesting and unique side of her that makes her one of the best designed characters in the entire game. There's a reason why in the first month that Lidia was released, she was my most played character, and I played her more than every other character in the game combined. There's a reason why I went from playing Yoshimitsu since I was 5 to only playing Lidia when she was released, and it's because of this. If Lidia was really a bare bones, basic, simple character, like people say, brain dead, casino, 50-50 stance mix up, then why would I, as someone that plays Yoshi, because I like having an unorthodox, weird, asymmetrical approach to neutral and game plan, why would I ever play Lidia? Why would I want to play her? And this is the reason, because that's just not how she is. So I hope that this video helped show you something new about Lidia. I hope that this video starts, hopefully, fingers crossed, bring up some more discussion, getting people to rethink about Lidia in terms of just how she's playing. And again, I hope that this might inspire you to play Lidia if you don't already, or at least give her a try, because you shouldn't listen to the pro players, you shouldn't listen to streamers or influencers, because frankly, they just don't know how this character works. They don't know how to play her. They don't know how to play against her. The Lidia players that they play against, chances are that they don't really know how to play the character either, no matter what rank they are. And there is something unique and something special and something really fun when you get into the nitty-gritty. And I think a lot of people that have learned from me and taken my advice and use a lot of the techniques I use would agree with me. You know, I play Lidia in a very unique way. I don't think that there's really anyone that plays Lidia like I do. Even people like Exo and Tetsu, they have a different, more reserved defensive play style than I do. And if you want some examples of that, play style, then hey, feel free to check out my stream at twitch.tv/Sesujin, where we play Lidia. And that's basically it. I'm gonna try to go for God of Destruction Ouroboros in season 2, so that's something to look out for. Season 2 is probably gonna come out in a couple of days by the time this video comes out, considering it's an hour and a half long for recording right now. So hey, if you made it this far, please feel free to hit the subscribe button if you want to see more stuff. I want to branch out to more like general guides and stuff in the future. So if you're not here just for Lidia, but you want to see more general stuff, we have that. We have some series like Guess the Rank. As the name implies, just guess the rank. So even if it's not guides you want to stick by for that, we have gameplay, we have streams, we have a whole bunch of stuff. So if you made it this far, I'd appreciate if you leave a like, and if you want to see more, please feel free to subscribe and check out my Twitch channel. Again, I feel like I'm allowed to do all of this, like I said in the last video when I make an hour and a half recording. But anyway, that's going to be about it. And I guess there's one final fun bonus thing for Lidia's execution. We can talk about FADC. This is a bit silly and it's not very practical, but just because we're here at the very end, Lidia has her 1+2 cancel, and she can actually cancel this kind of like FADC, where she can like do this, and it allows her to actually get a bigger dash than a normal forward dash. So if we do like 1+2 and then this, we can actually do a dash cancel off of our 1+2, and that means she has a focus attack dash cancel. Now, doing this optimally is a little bit hard, but it looks something like that, and it gives us a little bit more momentum than just a normal dash. Is it practical? No. Is it funny? Yes. It's very funny that I can say that Lidia has FADC. So, anyway, that's gonna do it from me. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you liked this video. And again, I hope this provides some insight and something valuable about Lidia as a character in general. Anyway, I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.